Welcome back to 3B Farms. We're here for another week on the farm, and right now we've got a lot of snow cover, but it's going to warm up, so we'll see how much we can get done in this week. Okay, so being that there's still snow on the ground, it's going to be a day or two before I can really get in the ground and do some things on the farm. But you know, I have a lot of other things I need to do. I really need to get some watering done. Everything under plastic isn't getting all this snow and rain that we've had for the last month. I don't water that often during the winter, and you know, I'm going to go down to the high tunnel and check the soil and see how moist things are in one of the tunnels. But the cold frames, you know, they have a high percentage of perlite in them. So they do get, you know, to the point that they dry out a little quicker, and I don't want to lose all my cuttings. I've got a few thousand sitting in the cold frames that need to be potted up into 1 gallons, and I'd like to be able to pot them up and not throw them in the dead pile. You know, I need to work on this fence that I got started before, and there's been so much snow and frozen area around it till now that I couldn't do it. I've got a few trees I'd like to get in the ground actually, and you know, seedlings to upgrade. There's lots of things to do this week, so let's see how the weather goes and whether I'm stuck inside or can get outside and do some things, and let's jump into the week. One of my first priorities really is to get the things watered that are under plastic. I mean, checking the moisture in these pots, they're not extremely dry, but they definitely need to be watered. And during the winter time, you know, I've got to drag a lot of long lengths of hose. I have this hydrant, but you can see here the hose going way back to my far tunnel back there, and that's where I'm going to start watering, and this takes 3 lengths of long hose to get back there. And then inside, these are the stems that I normally water from in the summertime, but I don't want to put water in there to freeze to bust them. So I've got this hose that I'm going to water with inside with a normal water wand, and I'm just going to come through here, and I think there's around 1,201 gallons in here that I upgraded this year. And then my next thing is to work more on this fence that I started before. And on the top of that 3-foot row fence, wherever there's gates or corner posts, I want to put some reinforcement between the posts. So I've got this 5-quarter board. It's just a whole lot cheaper than One Buys or anything else. It's, you know, it's good lumber and it's solid. So everywhere there's corners or gate posts, I'm coming back and, you know, running the wove wire about halfway up on this board. And then that gives me something to stabilize the whole top row of wire and then the bottom row of the wire that I'm going to put up above this to make my 7 feet. Now, to raise these center posts on up, what I'm going to do is put rebar, you know, additions onto the top of these posts. So I'm just coming through and measuring all the posts here to, you know, see how long my rebar needs to be. These aren't all perfectly level, so some need to be a little longer than others to make my 4 foot. So I just come through and measure all these different lengths, and then I drag my rebar up here and just measure each of those lengths, and I'm just going to cut it all to size. You know, don't do as I do. You really should wear leather gloves and glasses and all that kind of stuff and be really safe in what you do. I kind of push the limits with things I do. Maybe I'm not so intelligent as I think I am. But in any case, I'm just coming through and cutting all the rebar. And once I get all those cut, what I need to do is just come back with the drill, and I drill holes, you know, that I got a bit that's just a hair smaller than the rebar, because I don't want a lot of moisture falling the rebar down into the post and causing it to rot. I've really debated going ahead and putting some type of a sealant on the top of the post to make them longer lived, but I don't know. For right now, I'm just going to get the wire up, and basically I'm just going to make sure the rebar goes at least 6 inches down in each post. So I just, you know, after the drill bit clogs itself up, so I just have to go down and drill a little bit at a time and bring it up and get the shavings out of it and keep going back and forth until I get all these drilled in all these posts.
This takes a little bit of time, but it's not extreme, so it's not that big a deal. And once I have every one of those holes drilled, then I grab my sledgehammer and I bring my rebar pieces that I had laid out beside the post after I cut them, and I'm just going to drive these down into each of my posts. It's a nice snug fit, so they shouldn't wind affecting it or anything else. Should be good and solid. And these, once I get all these in place, then that gives me my height on all my posts, so I can come back and start putting the wire up. This chicken wire, it's barely seen in these photographs, but basically I just nail this to the end where one of my gate posts are going to be, and I'm just going to come through and I'm stapling it into the top of the wooden post, but from there up I'm going to tie it to the rebar with this. This is just electric fence wire. And I just cut a whole bunch of these pieces. I'm figuring I need 3 to 4 for each one of those extensions of rebar that I put in the post. So I just cut a whole bunch of those. And I'm just coming back, and I started at the top and tie the top of it after I've stapled the bottom. And I just put 3 or 4 ties in each one of these rebar posts and go right down the line and get this 4 foot of chicken wire on the top of it. And I'm not pulling this and putting tension on it to make it real nice and pretty, but basically that gives me the wire where I need to be. Now what's left over on the wire roll, I'm going to take up here, and remember these posts I had put in place to start just doing a compost pile, and I need something to keep the wind from blowing the leaves and stuff out of it, so I just put these posts in place and putting wire out to do compost in. Now inside this week, there's several things I need to do. I have these seeds of this Cassandra plant, and I'm going to soak them a little bit. And this needs to be stratified. They looked really dry, but after I put them in water for a couple of hours, I can see that they're good and viable. So I just make a mix of perlite and sphagnum moss, and I put some in a baggie and label it so I don't forget what it is. And I make sure this is good and moist. I don't want it to be dripping water, but I want it to be moist so when I put it in my hand and squeeze it, it doesn't drip. Because I want to keep the seed nice and moist. And then I'm just going to put them in a crisper in the refrigerator. And I already have these pawpaws in here from seed I collected out of some fruit last fall, so I can germinate them this spring. And this week I'm also going to go ahead and do a couple of different cuttings of some things. This is just a weeping willow. I've had people ask me for these, and I've never really grown them in the past, but a neighbor has a tree, so I stopped and got some hardwood cuttings. And I've ran out of cold frame space in the ones that I have down here, and I need to move some more of these from the ones I have back in the woods up to these so I can put more cuttings in some of my empty ones. So I just go back with a tree cart, and I need to replace the plastic on this one, but it's going to be okay for now. So I just move another cold frame up here and start putting cuttings and stuff in these. Now inside as well, I'm going to start upgrading some seedlings. And I just make a good soil mix. I have a little bit of compost. It's about a third, and a third. I have about a third of compost, a third of perlite, and a third of sphagnum moss. And all these seedlings that I started in these trays, what I'm going to do is just use a pencil from the bottom and poke them upright. And I'm coming back in all these holes and just transplanting these. Now you really want to wait till you have your first set of mature leaves. The leaves that come out when it initially germinates and comes up are just they're just to give it enough life until it can start growing. So you want to make sure you have more leaves on it before you transplant. And to water everything down here, I just have one of these spray bottles, and I took the nozzle off the end of it. You have to really be careful with this when you water, because if you don't, you can press the handle and blow the seedlings right out of the trays. And every once in a while I slip and do a little bit of damage, but I just barely press the one nozzle for this and just slowly come through and soak all the seedlings in once I've got them transplanted really good. And I've got several things that are going into different size cell packs. Most of my flowers are going into 6 packs, but These I'm just going to put in 4-packs. I may keep these for myself. I don't know. And, you know, all these others, I've got about 5 flats that I ended up with of these. And these are marigolds, and, you know, they're small, but I just got to come through and get all these started to go into cell packs because I need to root them out and get them ready because in a couple of months, these are ready to go to market. And I want them to be nice sized plants but before, you know, I take them to market. So by doing them now, they're going to be well established. And a lot of these I'm going to use in my own garden because some of these plants are really good for protecting against bugs and stuff. And I have these scented geraniums in big pots in the living room upstairs. And I just decided I was going to go ahead and do some cuttings of the scented geraniums. These are all the cauliflowers, broccolis, and cabbage seedlings that are up. And they're all ready to go into cell packs. So I got to get started on those. So, you know, it's just all a process. It takes a lot of time to move these from one thing into the cell packs and get them on the shelves and ready to rock and roll. But it's that time of year and it's exciting.
So there you have this week's segment of 3B Farm. I would have liked to have gotten more done this week, but I did take a good bit of time and start some outside work. There's just things I need, and I need money, you know. You gotta pay your bills. In any case, through the winter I don't have a lot of outside work, so I like to get as much done on the nursery as I can, but man, it's just been a few really nice days here, so I did start some other jobs and getting some other stuff accomplished. But you know, I got a fair amount done on the farm. I mean, you don't really see everything I do in these videos. I just touch on some of the highlights and kind of the things that at least let you know the direction and the things that I'm accomplishing. I want you to, if you're really wanting to get into this business or know more about the business, I want to give you a flavor of how things are. So, you know, I hope I'm accomplishing that. I hope maybe you can learn something from what I'm doing. Thank you for coming back and sharing this time. I do appreciate it. Subscribe to my channel. You know, I'd like to get this out there, and the only way algorithms will allow videos to get out there is if they have views. And, you know, I'd like to grow the channel a little bit. So, comment below if you have questions or things about how I do things or something you don't see in this video that you're curious about. Leave questions below and I'll reply to them and give you answers the best I can. In any case, spring's around the corner. Man, I'm thinking green. Now I'm seeing all these seedlings being upgraded into cell packs. It starts to become exciting. We've set dates of April 11th. We do our farmers market here at the county fair on Friday evenings from 4 to 7. So April 11th is our first day for that. So I need to have everything up and ready to rock and roll by that time, at least the cold season stuff. That's a little early to have tomatoes and peppers and stuff out, which I do need to get seeded this week. You know, they need to be ready by about the beginning to the end of the first week of May or so. A lot of people here, because of the frost in the spring, don't plant till close to June even. But anyway, I like to have things ready ahead of time for the market. And the cold season stuff will take the last few frosts of the year because they're light, or even if you want to put frost cover on them. But cabbage, broccoli, cauliflower, you know, there's a lot of things. I mean, you can get onions in the ground. There's a lot of things that will tolerate that. So I want to have those things ready to rock and roll when that time comes. In any case, I'm rambling on and on and on. Have a good week, and I'll see you in next week's video of 3B Farm.